there aren't uprisings all over the country, and maybe there will be.
People need to start taking to the streets. This is a dictator.
Enemies of the state.
Show me where it says that protests are supposed to be polite.
Hey, welcome everyone to another episode. I think this is episode 43. I really got to get a count on this, but we're actually only 3 minutes behind today. So thank you for spending your afternoon with us. As always, if you have questions, feel free to put them in the chat. Let me know where you're listening from. It's great to start seeing some regular people showing up here on a regular basis. Before we get into today's topic, our private membership associations legal, easy for me to say. We got to take care of a few little housekeeping things. So first of all, none of this constitute legal or tax advice. And two, there are a couple, we'll call them sponsors, I guess, that I want to make sure you're aware of. They can all be found on the East Coast PMA website. That's eastcoastpma.com. Links are in the description. But the first one is Liberty Dollar Financial Association. If you have an association, if you are looking for an alternate currency that is backed by silver and to join another association, they also have a marketplace. I believe they're still putting that together. It might be up and running now, where you can find other associations that are out there also. So that is a good resource. So make sure you check that out. And then you can just use the banner at the top of East Coast PMA to get on over there. You can set up your account, you can fund it and all that stuff. So that's also important. And then the other thing, if you do have an association, or even if you don't, these guys over at Start9, it's the place to go to keep your computer sovereignty, or to take back your computer sovereignty, I should say, and to keep your online shenanigans private. So, I loaded up mine today. I did a web search for, some news that's going on, because there's just some crazy stuff going on around out there. But again, it's only going through my server and it's private with me. So you can do a bunch of other things, like run your own Lightning node. You can run your own version of PayPal through BTC Pay. And you can also have end-to-end encrypted text messaging for you and your family, your community, what have you. So check them out. If you do go over there, make sure you use the code Rebel Alliance, all one word, when you check out. That'll get you 9% off of the system. So make sure you check that out and get over there to see what they have to offer. They have some really great stuff. So that being said, what is going on in the world today? Boy, it's gotten pretty crazy. One of the things that caught my eye today in the news, because it happened here locally in Connecticut, and I guess it happened in a few other state buildings, is this clown, lack of better descriptions, decided to send out threatening emails to different state capitals, and they had to have like bomb squads come in and everything, and evacuate here in Connecticut. And they had to search the building, and of course they didn't find anything. So I thought that was very interesting to see stuff like that. I think we're going to start seeing some more false flags and more of that predictive programming, so to speak, when it comes to the deplorables who are going to be causing problems during this next election cycle, which we all know that's not true. But anyways, that's just kind of some of the stuff out there. And then let's see, what else was there? There was, more nonsense going on at the border, and Jean-Pierre, or whatever her name is. Today she was on TV talking, and it's comical, because they're making it seem like it's the previous administration's fault, and that, this is a good one, because I've worked in the prison system. I've worked in the military. I've set up perimeters and used concertina wire and razor wire and all this other stuff. And they're like, the razor wire does not keep illegal immigrants from crossing the border. It does cause a serious imminent threat to Border Patrol, which is just the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. But anyways, let's get into today's topic. I just thought some of that stuff was quite interesting, especially with the whole Capitol thing, because it happened here in Connecticut and a whole bunch of other states. I'm just always curious on how some of this stuff works, or how they pick their certain areas. So That being said, let's get into today's topic. If you are on X, let us know. If you're on the YouTube page, let us know, the YouTube channel. And also tonight, if you are watching this in the replay, tonight in the Telegram group, in the Facebook group, and also in the YouTube page, I will be posting the link for the PMA Manifesto's free monthly call. We're hosting it on Meetin this time instead of Zoom, just because it's a little bit more private. And we will be going, answering your questions. We're on there for about an hour, myself, uh, Erica, and the two Angelas. So that's at 8 o'clock East Coast time, I believe. I could be wrong, but I will make sure all that stuff gets into the comments and show notes and stuff like that. So you can find it and jump on there and get your questions answered. So the topic today is, are private membership associations legal? And I came up with this topic really simple. I went over to my search engine, I turned on keywords anywhere, and I said, what are people searching when it comes to private membership associations? So some of the top things are private clubs, rules and regulations, private membership association templates, which, funny enough, if you need to go get your DIY templates, you can go right over to the PMAmanifesto.com or East Coast PMA to get your DIY templates, like we've talked about many times before on here. So that being said, the next one was, are private membership associations legal? And I thought this was, and they have stuff about private membership association PDFs and founding documents, stuff like that. That's what everybody's been searching. But with this, I decided, this might be a good topic, because I do get this question, especially from when new people find this channel, find this content. Maybe they're in an area where, homeschooling, to do homeschooling or have a home drop off location, there's a lot of red tape that you have to jump through or what have you. But basically, for those of you who are new here or not quite sure what an association is, let me just scroll through my different stuff that I have open here, and let's see. We'll go right down to the definition of association. So this comes out of Black's Law. You can look it up. It's very, basically it's a group of people getting together to get some stuff done, right? But technically speaking, it's the act of a number of persons in unity together for a special purpose or business. The person so joining. It is a word used of vague meaning, used to indicate a collection of persons who have joined together for a certain objective. That's US v. Martindale, and that is from the DC area. And then you also have um, Roach and Company versus Harding, and that talks about an unincorporated society is a body of persons united and acting together without a charter, but upon the methods and forms used by incorporated bodies for the persecution of some common enterprise. And that's Clark versus the Grand Lodge, Brotherhood of the Railroad Trainmen, and it's not a legal entity separate from the persons who compose of it. So basically, that last part has changed. The stuff does change as time goes on. So for our purposes here today, a private membership association is a group of individuals getting together for a common goal. I don't care what that common goal is. It could be everything from permaculture to, hey, I want to learn how to hunt, to we want to get together and, you know, um, help one another within the community. So whatever your reason of association is, right? So those are just the definitions. And then we also have some states have incorporated the Uniform Unincorporated Nonprofit Association Act, or the UUNAA, that came out in the late 90s. And I will put a list of all the states that have adopted that. So if you do have a nonprofit association, you can see kind of what your state looks at, or how they kind of get all on the same page. So, like we said, very simple. It's just kind of searching through here. The associations, they people come together for a common goal. Now, within that association, we're relying on the First Amendment, and we've talked about the constitutional law desk book before, and I don't know if I have that up today. I don't think I do, but that being said, it relies on the First Amendment, the 14th Amendment, and where it starts to talk about privacy, your right of association. And I can't do two things at once because I only got one eye that's still working. So let me see here if I can bring this in. I got some court cases that I'll throw up there, and you see these talked about in other spots. So Pierce versus Society of Sisters. You have Thomas v. Collins. You have Byrd versus Arizona, Mayberry versus Madison, Thomas v. Collins. I think I already said that one. And there's some others in there too. I just see if I can pull them up. And there's some more recent ones. So you also have the Roberts. Yeah, I said this Roberts versus United States JCs. And that I'm not going to get into the whole entire thing, but we'll get in a second. But you also have the NAACP versus Alabama. That one comes out of the constitutional law desk book. So when you start talking about the legality of associations, we understand that we have that right of association underneath the First and 14th Amendment, and that's kind of what protects us. So we can say that if there's some other crazy mandate coming around and, oh, hey, you can't gather with your family unless there's, you can only gather with your family of two and more or four or more, and you can't gather with friends because of whatever nonsense is being pushed. We can say, no, we have the right of association. And that right is then talked about in certain court cases where it forms a sanctuary. It allows people to be able to say, I want to have my religious freedoms and, those rights. And then, the difference between public accommodations and private accommodations. And so one of the cases that I'll put up on there talks about the 14th Amendment. This case is known for establishing the doctrine of corporate personhood. And it kind of talks about, how sometimes legal entities can be looked at as a person because you're not going to sue like, Microsoft, every individual that runs Microsoft, you're going to sue the whole company. So it starts to talk about that, the equal protection clause and the due process clause, how even if you have a corporation, and one of them is Hobby Lobby, where it said, no, people have the right to their religious freedom. So I think it's just be easy for me to post some of this stuff on the website that you guys can take a look at, because it really, you can read the court cases for yourself. And I don't want to sound like I'm a monotone person here, just reading for, the fun of it. But once you have your group established and you say, okay, we're gonna, and this goes, if you're in Canada, you have your Canadian Charter of Rights, has some of the very similar stuff that's in our Bill of Rights. So you're going to lean on that if you're up there and it talks about the right of association, stuff like that. Now, that doesn't mean you're never going to be challenged, or somebody's not going to say, hey, listen, you can't do this, because, they don't want us to know this knowledge and understand that, yeah, we have this right of freedom of religion. We have our right to dictate how our children are educated. We have our right of association to come together for a common goal. And then I wish I could find it. I don't know if I have it up here. My eyes are really bothering me today. Sorry, folks. You gotta have to bear with me here. I'll find it, but there's man, what court case was that? So one case I'll put up there is the New York State Club Association Inc. versus New York City. That was from 1988, and it talks about public accommodations versus private membership clubs and the difference. Hobby Lobby was from 2014. So there's some newer cases that back the right of association. Now, here's the thing. It's not just, it's, how do I want to put this? You can say, hey, listen, we're a group of people getting together for a common goal. And you might have it at a real macro level. Maybe there's 10 or 12 of you, right? Other people that I talk to want to have larger associations, and we still want to keep it as an intimate association, because then the government really doesn't have an issue or a say in what we're doing. They have no interest in what we're doing, right? Because it's private, as opposed to like an expressive association where it's thousands upon thousands of people. But we want to not just, if you're at the macro level and you're like 12 or 13 people, I don't necessarily say or think you need to have founding documents. However, if your group is growing and you've got people coming in from different walks of life and they're all coming together for this common goal, you want to start having founding documents. Now, whether you use the DIY templates or you write them yourself or you hire me to do it and consult to put yours together, or you go over to the PMA manifesto and maybe you want to work with Erica on the West Coast or one of the Angelas here on the East Coast, it's completely up to you. But the reason for that, and I cannot find this case, it's not right in front of me. I don't know where in the heck I put it. I have stuff highlighted too. You'd think I'd be able to find it. But basically, one of the cases that I don't know where it is right now, the court went in to say that, the government can't come in and infringe what happens within an association. It's going to drive me nuts that I can't find this case. Let me look on another page here. And that's important to realize that you need to have your founding documents. Hey, Frozen Dog, thanks for checking in again today. Anybody else that's on? We got a few people today. 4, I think it's a record number for the live stream. So feel free to share this with others, by the way, and let them know what we got going on over here. And drop me a note where you're from, and feel free to ask any questions. I'll answer them all at the end. Now we're down to 3 that I said that. Anywho, so this court case, and as soon as I find it, I will post it on eastcoastpma.com and in the Telegram group and in Facebook. But basically, it went in to say that, the state, we'll just call it the state, cannot come into an association and start dictating how it should be run or how certain things should be done, because they have their right of association under the First and 14th Amendment. They have bylaws, they have their internal workings. That would be like the local government coming into, I don't know, the VFW, the Moose Lodge, the Masons, and say, hey, you can't do this. You have to do it this way. They can't do that. They're not supposed to do that. And this court case backs that up. So I'm just not prepared. I was stacking wood. That's why I look like a slob today. But when I find that, I will post that in all the groups so you all can read that for yourself. So there is a really big legally standing when it comes around associations. So if you go into jurisprudence, you can pull up all the stuff on associations. Some of it's about private, some of it's about public, and you can read how certain things are looked at. So the problem for me is when, like I said, I came up with this topic by doing a search through keywords anywhere. Some of the main sites that come up are ones that are just pushing bad information, and they can tell you that you can do whatever you want. You don't have to answer the government. You don't have to answer a cease and desist if you receive one. So like we've had some schools here in Connecticut that have been challenged. They're set up as ministries. We have to explain to the state that under this certain statute, we're operating privately. So kick rocks. Now, that doesn't happen when you work with some of these other people. And, I've had people reach out to me and be like, yeah, these people told me this and told me that. So there is a legal standing for associations, but it has to be done properly. And that's my biggest gripe, I think. And you'll hear the 2 Angelas and Erica say the same thing is, a lot of these groups try to ball all this stuff into one thing and call it an association. It's not. Your founding documents have to be written correctly and in a certain way. And many of the times they're not. And again, like if you've got, like I said, 10, 12 people and you want to get together and garden and have a community garden on somebody's property and you guys work towards whatever your goal is, that's a small association. You can do that. Do you need founding documents? Probably not. Do you need to have those discussions like, hey, if we have a surplus of vegetables, where are we going to sell them? How are we going to sell them? Right? That should probably be a question that, gets answered. Now, if you're in a larger association, like we have Liberty House or East Coast PMA, the people that are members, we're spread out. If you have a education association, or maybe it's some type of homeopathic healing association where people are coming together to learn how to heal their bodies naturally using natural compounds and herbs, and kind of like that lady you see all over the place, Barbara something. I can't think of her name. If you guys know who I'm talking about, this is the older lady with the hair pulled back, and she talks about cayenne pepper. She's got me on taking cayenne pepper twice a day now, and the flu bomb and some other things. Drop it in the chat if you guys know. It's Barbara something. I can't remember exactly what her name is. But that being said, or even something like Liberty Dollar Financial Association, that's a larger association. They need to have really good written bylaws, articles of organization, a membership agreement, maybe a non-disclosure agreement, that sort of thing. And you know, I think the problem is people kind of have half knowledge when it comes to association. Like, yes, we know that under the First and 14th Amendment, we have the right of association, but how does that? I feel like I got bugs crawling on me from stacking wood. How does that work? Like, if we have, a community association and we start bringing funds together to purchase land, like how does that work? And there's all these different questions that get asked, and the problem is if you don't have your documents done correctly, you're not established properly, you can run into some issues, right? Like I just had a consultation with a lady who is in Ohio, and she's looking to do some stuff with supporting candidates and women's rights and that sort of thing. I'm trying not to use words to get banned here, but those are just some of the things that you have to look at. So let me see if I can pull up the other thing that I wanted to here. I need like 8 more screens up. But let's see here. So the question that I get asked a lot, well, is there any protection with the association? You know, um, is there any what's the benefit of having an association? There are benefits. There are, one, you eliminate all that red tape with incorporating at the state or local government level, right? Now, there are some occasions where we tell people, hey, like myself, and I've done it, and I tell others, hey, you need to get an anonymous LLC out of Wyoming just because of the ways things are getting set up or the way you're doing it. So, not every time is it makes sense to just do an association. There's other things sometimes we can throw in there. But when you're looking at the First Amendment, it says, Congress shall make no laws respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press or the right of the people to peacefully assemble. And that's what we're talking about. We're talking about peacefully assembling. We're coming together, we're assembling for a common goal. And so that's the first thing we're going to, if we're being challenged, well, we've got the right of the Constitution. Now you need to understand how to word that and how to answer cease and desist if you get it and that sort of thing. And sometimes I can help people with that. Sometimes it's better just to find a constitutional law attorney in your area. But we do have that right to stand on. And the same thing, when it comes to like the education stuff, just because you say you have an association, you're set up, doesn't give you the right to do whatever you want, right? Like we can't infringe on other people's rights. I can't go run a brothel and fentanyl. I can't sell fentanyl and say it's going to cure headaches because it could kill somebody, right? There's still laws in place that we cannot break as free people, but we can have that protection. I'm sorry, I got off track. That's what we are talking about, protection within the association. We do have that protection when we're doing things legally and we're saying, okay, we're going to come together because let's say we want to do a community like we have with Liberty House and we're getting together for a common goal. We're going to have a treasurer who's in charge of the checking and savings and Square account, whatever else we have going on. We're going to have others that are handling the monthly newsletter, and we're going to come together and we're going to associate regardless of what's going on in the world, whether it's World War III, another worldwide pandemic, anything like that. And then we have that group to rely on with each other. So, I talked about it yesterday. We got a big old nor'easter. If you're from New England, you know what that is. It's a big snowstorms coming through, 6+ inches of snow. It's, pandemonium and, craziness on the news channel, going out and get your eggs and milk and bread, but most of us are prepared. I'm assuming anybody that's watching this is probably in somewhat of a preparedness lifestyle. So they're not worried about that stuff. But my point is that I now have a community where I've got this behemoth of a tree that I know is going to come down if the snow is wet. It's going to take out my power line coming up from the street to the homestead, and I'm going to have to deal with that. But at least I can call people to come help me because now I have this closer community. I will get a faster response from my close community than I will if I call up one of my buddies a few towns away because they've got their own stuff going on and they're not what's the word I'm looking for, they're not financially obligated, but god, I'm having a loss of words here. They don't have any skin in the game as you would with members of Liberty House or East Coast PMA or anything like that, right? So that's just important to understand that there are protections within the association, and some of those other protections are, hey, I'm trying to think of some examples here. You would think with all the people that I talk to on a daily basis, I would have a lot more examples, but I get a lot of the same questions. That's why I'm doing this live stuff every day, trying to answer some of them. And I think I just got to keep doing the questions and answers from the group. I think that's better off sometimes. But that being said, some of the other protections within the association, like, we have, and I got to find that court case where, you have the right to dictate how your children are going to be educated. Now, whether you want to bring them to public school, you want to do homeschooling, you want to be a part of a pod, you want to, a co-op, or maybe you have someone in your community that runs an association for education purposes for its members only, and it teaches not only the kids, but maybe it also teaches the parents of things you can do with your children when they're home. So not only are they getting like a supplemental education, or maybe it's a nature type of education through this association, but they're also helping provide ways for you to educate your children when they're not there. So there are all those different aspects of it. And I just want people to understand that, yes, you have, I kind of feel like I've been rambling today. I think just because there's just so much going on upstairs today with what I want to get out. And I didn't do like bullet points today, and I usually do that to stay on topic. So apologize for that. But I want people to understand that, having an association is is a is legally protected. Being able to associate with your members and conduct things by private contract, by between you, them, and the fence post, and to be able to peacefully assemble with others that are trying to accomplish the same common goal is protected, and it is completely legal. Now, where you will get into trouble is if you're doing things illegally. And I guess I should talk about that before we close today, because there are people that have let's say faith-based associations, right? You can absolutely have an association that's faith-based. You can have one that is non-faith-based. It could just be an association. You could have a ministry. You can have a free church. The difference is if you have an association, in most cases and in most areas, they're going to be looked at as a partnership, tax-wise, legally wise. Some states recognize them as a legal entity, some states don't. So it's important to know what state, where you are geographically located and how that area looks at your associations. You can have a nonprofit association, and then you can use the Uniform Nonprofit Association Act along with some other things. But again, it has to be structured properly. If you have, let's say, a faith-based association, this is one of the things that were being pushed early on, that you are tax exempt under the 508c1a tax code. And that is just that's not the case. It's not true. It's false. You can do it. Probably going to get in trouble with the good old IRS. And here's why. Because the 508c1a tax code is only established for churches. And the IRS uses the term church to cover the whole realm of buildings like mosques, synagogues, temples, churches, all that stuff. And then you can have auxiliary of churches. So maybe you have an outbuilding somewhere or another part of that church working in another part of the state that could also be tax exempt. What others were trying to do, and what was sold to me early on, is that if you have a faith-based association, that qualifies. It does not. You have a for-profit association, doesn't mean you can't be based in faith. Is what I want to get across, and why it's important to understand what your documents say if you are getting founding documents, and who you're getting them from and how they're being written. Now, if you do the DIY templates, all this information is in there. It explains it in nauseum and how to fill them out and how to do them yourself. So like I said, you can always go over to eastcoastpma.com or the pmamanifesto.com and pick them up there. Now, if you have a ministry in most cases will not be tax exempt either, because it's not a church. Remember, the 508c1a is for a church. Now, you can have a social club that is tax exempt. That's the 501c7. And there's certain requirements for that. Now, if you are like myself, well, then maybe you just don't care because what you do with you and your members is private anyways, and you don't really give a rat's hind to what the IRS thinks because you're not really asking them for permission. Now, again, that's my personal viewpoint on things. That's more of the anarchist in me coming out, where I just want a leaner, less intrusive government. I think taxes are theft, and hopefully we get Dave on here, Dave Merlin on pretty soon. I sent him an email a couple days ago to have him talk about his whole tax protest stuff and the things he's done with taxes and whatnot. But that being said, if you have a ministry, now there's some benefits to that here in Connecticut and a few other states. You can find the video I did. Maybe I'll do an update on that video. But if you have a ministry here in Connecticut, you are exempt from licensing from the education department. You can have a drop off location for your members' children, and you can provide them a religious education. And they don't care. I mean, they're going to challenge you. You have to show that you're not using the veil of ministry. So, again, it's important that we look at the 14 points that the IRS looks at when it comes to what is considered a church or a free church under the 508c1a, and kind of check a lot of those boxes off so nobody can just say you're using the veil of ministry. And the reason why I say that is because there's a lot of paper churches, I guess is the best way to put it, in some of these court cases. And man, the coffee's good today. I just got the coffee came out great today. Anyways, there's a few court cases out there where we've looked at, and I think it was Angela Harders that brought this up originally. I'm pretty sure she was the one that found it, because she's really good with the tax stuff. And basically, these people had these paper churches. They paid somebody somewhere. They got a paper church in the mail, had some documents, but they didn't realize that in their state, to be tax exempt under the 508c1a tax code, there's also some other hoops you have to jump through. Like in some spots, you have to have some positions on your board of directors or your trustees that is non-paid, which is important to know this, because if you are saying you are this entity and you're taking in this money and it's tax exempt, and then let's say you use it for personal allurement, so that meaning you take in, let's say $100,000, you put maybe 5 grand back into the church, and you take 95 and you go to the casino. Well, if you're here in Connecticut, you can go to the casino in some other places, or you go buy a house somewhere or a cabin in the woods. That's not for the church. That is for you personally, and you have to pay taxes on it. And that's where a lot of people were getting jammed up, because they were saying, oh, no, I have the right of the First and 14th Amendment. I don't need to do this. I'm tax exempt under the 508c1a tax code. And yes, you are correct. You are, but there's certain ways of doing it. And that is the biggest problem, is people just don't do it the right way. So we're back up to 4 on the live feed. Thanks for watching. Let us know where you're watching from and on what platform. Be greatly appreciated. And so that's why when I talk to people and I try to, I get a lot, oh, PMAs aren't worth anything, or unincorporated associations technically is what they're called, or, they have no protection. Yes, they do, but you need to be operating properly. And you can't just say, oh, I'm an association, I can do whatever I want, right? Because if you try to sell fentanyl to cure headaches, chances are your door is going to get kicked in, a flashbang is going to go off, and you're going to get arrested, right? That's probably what's going to happen, because it's illegal. Just because you have an association, you still can't break the law. But what it does do, it does allow you the protection of being private, keeping the government from prying eyes and saying, hey, what are you doing? Or, hey, you can't get together and associate, and you have to, if there's another lockdowns or whatever, the New World Order wants to throw at us, or the World Economic Forum, or whoever, right, says, oh, hey, no more than 3 people can gather together that aren't family members. Well, we can say, yeah, that's great, whatever. I have my First and 14th Amendment. I have the right to peacefully assemble, and that's what we're doing. We're not breaking any laws doing that. So you have that right. Like, I think it was in Canada, maybe it was in Australia during the whole thing, 2021, 2022, people weren't allowed to exercise together outside. Like, that's crazy. And if you know your rights, like in Canada, you have the Canadian Charter of Rights. It talks about assembly in there. Same thing as with our First Amendment. So you can definitely do things within the association. You can set it up properly. You can have the protections. And like I said, sometimes it makes sense to have the anonymous LLC. That's more for like the banking side of things and whatnot, and have it manage the manage the association. But you can get these set up. You can live a more free life without the government peering into what you're doing because it's between you, your members, and a fence post. And as long as you're not breaking any laws, you have nothing to worry about. Yes, you're going to be challenged. Yes, you're going to have to stand up on your own 2 feet and tell the local government or whoever, hey, no, this is what I'm doing. I'm doing it properly. Go kick rocks, go bother somebody else. Kind of want to make yourself a hard target. You don't want to be a soft target, like these gun-free zones. Oh, that's going to get me in trouble somewhere that I just said that. But you want to be a non-soft target. You want to have multiple layers of defense for your association, and you want to be able to stand up and say, no, I have this right. You're not correct here. See you later. Now, if you're breaking the law, there's nothing I can do to help you. If you're, running a brothel, I like to use that terminology, or you don't have an intimate association, maybe you have an expressive association where you have 10,000 members and you are selling unpasteurized milk or goat's milk for animal consumption. They're probably going to say, hey, what's going on? And that's kind of what we saw with Amos Miller. That's kind of what happened with him and his association in a nutshell. But keep it intimate, keep it close with your members. You have legal standing. Before the end of the day or before our live event tonight or with the PMA Manifesto group, I think we're going on at 8 p.m. Eastern Central Time. I will get stuff up on the East Coast PMA website and in the Telegram group so you guys can see the court cases I'm talking about. Just bear with me. I got to get this wood stacked and stuff before this big snowstorm comes through. But we got a few people on. Let me know where you're watching from or listening from. And let me know if you have any questions. I'm going to shoot over to the Facebook group real quick. I don't believe I'm streaming in there today. I think we're doing X instead. Trying to figure out where most people are watching, where to put my time and energy into. Yeah, I got nothing over there. So that being said, I'll give it a few minutes here, see if anybody has any questions. Feel free to type them in. Let me know anything regarding associations or anything like that you want me to answer questions on. Also, we'll be diving into this bad boy. Just came the other day, the Federal Civil Rule book. This because I got a class coming up on this. So I figured this would be some good information for those who want more of the legalese stuff. Again, if you haven't taken Dr. Graves' course over how to win in court without a lawyer, the link for that is on East Coast PMA. It's on the right-hand side. And that's just a great reference. I think it's like $250 or something like that. His Telegram group's really good too. He keeps a lot of the garbage out of there, and it's really just stuff you can utilize to win in court. I've used it myself. I know a lot of others have, and it really helps you enforce your rights when it comes to evildoers or people that do you wrong, trespass against you, that sort of thing. So the only one we got here is Frozen Dog here from Missouri. Thanks again for coming out every day. I really appreciate you jumping on. If you're listening to the replay of this or the podcast version, please feel free to share it with others who might be interested in associations, common law, standing up for yourself, and how to live a little bit more of a free life without government oversight as much as humanly possible in the current environment that we're in. So that being said, thank you all. We're at just about 38 minutes. And hopefully I will see you guys tonight with the PMA Manifesto ladies, and check out Telegram, Facebook, and East Coast PMA for the link for that. Until tomorrow, I'll talk to you later. Peace.
All over the country, and maybe there will be.
People need to start taking to the streets. This is a dictatorship.